So Dr. Giovanni Piedimonte, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, almost.
I want to hear you say it.
Piedimonte.
Welcome to PedChat. I'm looking forward to chatting with you today for multiple reasons. One is that you have a very impressive resume. You are a pediatric leader at the Cleveland Clinic, and I know the audience is going to get a lot out of your thoughts around the current state of healthcare and pediatrics. And so I'm really blessed and grateful that you've taken the time to be on the show with us today.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you are now the director of Global Pediatric Research and Innovation. Is that correct?
Pediatric research, yes. I am. I coordinate the research operations across the enterprise and try to develop within the Lerner Research Institute, which is the research engine of the Cleveland Clinic, try to develop new lines of pediatric research that has to do. My research is particularly related to, and the research I try to develop is related to the origins of life. So the beginning of life, the interactions between the mother and the fetus to start with, and the early events that determine chronic diseases. I have this fundamental belief that most, if not all, of the chronic diseases that we are dealing with in our society are determined in the very first weeks or months of life, and especially in those 7 to 9 months that we spend in the uterus of our mothers. And I think there is excellent evidence accumulating that that is the case. And if that is the case, it is essential we understand how that happens, because in my opinion, we are failing and we will continue to fail without any doubt if we continue to manage the diseases after they are established. So in other terms, I have very rarely seen an obese individual that is obese at 30 years of age and all of a sudden becomes perfectly lean and with a great metabolism 5 years later. The same way, most obese people can tell you that they became obese when they were pre-adolescent or adolescent. They were chubby already in the elementary schools and so forth. So if you don't block it there, you're not going to stop this. If you don't deal with asthma very early in life, you may have remodeling of your airways and so on and so forth. There are millions of examples that tell us that most of the chronic diseases originate very early in life. I am a little bit more extremist, I think, and most of those diseases have their true origins in pregnancy. And so that's the center, the fulcrus of what we are interested in, which is to do true primary prevention affecting the elements that determine very early in life the beginning and the evolution of chronic diseases.
It's like the ultimate preventive medicine. Why haven't we been doing this earlier? I guess it's better late than never.
Financially has a lot of impact. You see, there is no doubt that there is a substantial amount of waste. But what is missing here is that even if we eliminate that waste, and I think we are making substantial efforts to eliminate the waste, that may not solve the problem for two fundamental reasons. The first reason is that it's not only important the output, but it's also important the input. And this is what I mean. It's not only important how efficient you are in providing healthcare, but you cannot compare healthcare today, or you cannot analyze healthcare today without thinking the fact that many diseases like asthma, obesity, any allergic disease, and so forth have increased literally leaps and bounds in incidence compared to just 10, 20, 30 years ago. So in other terms, obesity is now affecting more than, and overweight, there is a weight problem more than 1/3 of the population. That did not exist before. asthma was a fairly rare disease, has been increasing like, almost exponentially for decades. A lot of diseases that when I was in med school, we were actually fundamentally reading in the textbooks because we will never almost see a case, now are reaching epidemic peaks. I give you an example. When I was in med school, I got interested in inflammatory bowel disease, but the only way to find the cases was to go in the northern part of Europe. So I went to Stockholm to do an internship, which was my first internship, to have the opportunity to see some of these patients. Today, I receive a call every week or every 2 weeks from a family that is desperate and ask me to help them get their children that newly diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease in the clinic, because the waiting times are so long because there are so many patients. If this is not clearly understood, I don't think we're going to be able to fix the problem. There is something in the environment, because genes don't change this fast, but there is something in the environment that is rapidly changing in a very massive way the incidence of chronic diseases in our society. Obesity is a very strange animal because it comes with an incredible number of comorbidities. So that you have a population that increasingly become obese, that means that you have a population that increases in diabetes, increases in asthma, increases metabolic syndrome, and on and on and on. All things that are fundamentally debilitating. We are risking to get into a society where there is pretty much half of the population that has to work not only for themselves, but also to take care and provide resources to the other half that cannot work anymore. So that is a very, very scary thing. And you don't solve those problems by treating them. You solve those problems only with very strict, strategic, and fundamental prevention of the condition that caused that. The recent data just a few days ago, that in just a 2-year period, I think from 2012 to 2014, there was an increase in diagnosis for autism spectrum disorder of 15%. And already some estimates tell us that 1 out of 66 children have a form of disorder in the ASD range. I mean, that is terrorizing. We clearly have to set up strategies to take care of these kids, but we desperately need the research that tell us how to stop it, because if this does not stop, I mean, I think threatens our society at the very core, our survival as a culture, as an entity. And so I think that any energy, any resource has to be put into blocking, preventing these kind of situations, rather than take care of, you let them go, and then you have a 40-year-old that gets the first heart attack that is debilitating that person, affecting the whole family, and also make that person totally unproductive. It's a catch-22 that can literally bring our society on its knees.
Yeah, that's powerful. I heard in one of your other interviews that about 8 years ago, at least at the time of the interview, 8 years ago, you were diagnosed with cancer. I'd love to hear that story. And when you were diagnosed, what was it? How did you get through it? How did you fight through it? And how did that change your life?
I think the fundamental element when you get sick is the powerful move to the other side of the fence. And for as much as we can tell our patients that we feel and understand what they are feeling, there is absolutely no way that you feel exactly what they are feeling, or at least in the neighborhood of what they are feeling, if you don't feel it yourself. I went from thinking of being fairly invincible to understand that the fragility of our existence that can literally stop in a split second. And in a split second, anything can change for anybody, independently from how much power we have, how much money we have, how much intelligence we have, and so on and so forth. And it's only when you touch the afterlife with your finger, when you get into a situation that you are diagnosed with a disease, which incorrectly initially was, I was told that basically I was pretty much sent to my lawyer to sign my will. And you literally touch the end of your existence. That is the only way that, first of all, and I keep telling this to my friends and they continue to not believe me, but if you go through it, you do believe it. It's the best thing that can ever happen to you. Is truly when, if it doesn't kill you, it's gonna make you immensely stronger. From a doctor standpoint, however, the most important thing is you really start appreciating the pain, the suffering of an individual that is sick.
What are you most excited about in healthcare right now?
I'm most excited by the concept and the belief that the next generation of doctors are going to have tools that in their hands that are absolutely not even Asimov of the best writers of sci-fi would have ever possibly been dreaming about. The same excitement also gives me great concern, because like any tool, like nuclear energy, for example, can be an incredible tool to put into a little container that power the sun, but it's also something that can kill millions of people in a split second. And so all the vectors that are colliding right now have enormous power to improve this world or to destroy it.
Yeah, the scariest thing for me is overall healthcare is usually behind from a technological perspective because of intense regulation. I think there needs to be a better balance on that front. I think there needs to be more embracing technology as a whole. And obviously regulation is very important. So yeah, it's we should be thinking about the stuff and talking about the stuff right now.
In
the time
truth,
is now.
I believe the technology is already there.
Yeah.
I have seen it. I a lot of the technology that is necessary to do the things that we have been discussing is already there. If it doesn't emerge yet, is because of the concerns of what the impact on society is going to be. But if we have learned something from history, is you cannot stop progress. I mean, you can try to put dams here and there, but eventually the water is going to come through. So I think we have to maintain a dynamic balance between the technology that we are creating and us as people, and take it very, very seriously, because the consequences can be very, very significant.
Yeah.
I don't want to appear too pessimistic. I believe that eventually we are gonna find that, like has always happened, a new equilibrium. But I hear a lot of people that are complete, if not completely, but substantially downplaying the risks associated with this. The risks associated with wonderful things like CRISPR. CRISPR is a spectacular thing. CRISPR-Cas9 and the new generation of CRISPR, the ability that we have recently achieved to edit our genome. Of course, the implications for healthcare are spectacular. But You know, the ability to mess with Mother Nature has never been so extensive, and to believe that that nobody's going to have the crazy idea to use CRISPR for uh, goals and aims that are not in the best interest of humanity,
Mm-hmm.
I think is crazy. You know, it will happen. We need to create a series of regulation that at least try to prevent that from happening. Um, and again, I'm concerned because this is not one single element. These are a series of storms that can merge into a perfect storm. And the only thing I hope is that people are gonna look at this carefully and understand the plus and minuses, the advantages and disadvantages, and treat this with the great care, like, you know, in a way as happened, for example, with nuclear energy. Um, but again, I am I cringe when I see people say, "Oh, you know, we're going to do these things. Everything is going to be perfect. We're going to edit the genome. We're going to have computers that are able to deep learn and all humanity is going to be happy." I honestly, as the father of 6 kids, I am absolutely excited if humanity is going to get better. But I think that in order for that to happen, we have to think how this can happen in an organic way, in a controlled way, and to make sure that nobody uses this immense power against the interest of humanity.
If you could go back and give your 30-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just do something that makes your heart skip a couple of beats. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I see also in my kids, they are so excited, but also very concerned. Oh my God, am I going to find a job? Oh my God, I'm going to be successful. You will, if you work hard, and you are in this country that still allows you opportunities that many other countries don't. That is not the issue. The issue is make sure to do something that you enjoy, that you are happy with, something that if you have to work several extra hours, doesn't bring you down, makes you even happier. Because at the end of the day, when all is said and done, when you made the money and you became famous and so on and so forth, what really stays with you are your family, and what you have done for other people, and also the intense pleasure that you have when you do something that you like, that it makes your heart beat faster and makes you proud that you're doing something for the betterment of this humanity. And by the way, I said a lot of things that are concerning before. The fundamental reason why I am still optimistic is that when I look at our new generations, man, they are so much better than us. You know, um, it looks to me like the only chance that this world has to survive are in those people. And every time I talk to an adolescent, a college person, so, oh my God, they are so much smarter. They are so much more understanding. I think that they can go beyond racism. I think they can go beyond seeing people from the color of their skin. I think they will understand that having an accent or being in some way different is not necessarily something bad. And you see it in many areas of the United States. You go to Silicon Valley, for God's sake, do you realize Microsoft has a president that was born in a minuscule village in India, and he is the third president of Microsoft. He's the successor of Bill Gates. You know, that is my hope. I think it's going to be a very hard job to make this world better, because there is a lot of energy that goes in the opposite direction. But I think the new generations are really the best hope that we have for a better future.
I love it. I just got chills. What books do you recommend for the audience?
I can show you the one that I'm finishing right now, and I definitely recommend to everybody. Is the last book of Tom Friedman, Thank You for Being Late. It talks about several of the topics that we discussed today. It talks about the fundamental changes that are occurring in our society because of the internet, because of the changes in the market and globalization, and because he makes an excellent point also because of the climatic changes. It gives a new look, for example, in the true origins of what is happening right now in Libya and Syria, and you know, the drought that basically moved a lot of those population to basically in search of food, and basically tumbled those dictatorships because they didn't do anything when people were starving. It tells you that all these things are interconnected, that this is going to generate a new world, a new equilibrium. But we have to be very careful to make sure that there is a new social contract that is created to make sure that all those technological changes are going to drive towards the good of humanity versus the other direction. Remember, one of the first things that Nazis did, they start burning books. You know, I think we should never ever forget that. One of the fundamental aspects of 1984, which is actually a novel that I recently was in Broadway. I saw the Broadway show, and that drove me back to watch the movies on 1984 and to read it again. And that is the most terrorizing book I've ever read in my life, because it's so predictive of what is happening today. And basically it's a place where you cannot read, you cannot talk, you cannot, for as long as we maintain that intellectual curiosity, I think there is always going to be hope for our species. The moment basically we are in a situation that we lose that, we lose the ability of creating new ideas or to fight ideas that we don't like, that is going to be the end of everything.
I love it. Let's end on that. It's a good note to end on. Dr. Giovanni Piedimonte, thank you for being a part of PedChat.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. I wish you all the best, and I hope there are more and more people like you, young people, that do this kind of programs.